The man who actually delivered me was the man who taught me how to shoot my first rifle.
No way.
I know. And I didn't think of myself as anything special back then. I was an average student doing my fitness testing, passed that. 2 weeks later, I was on the bus. Do you know that is rape? And what you're explaining to me now in that scenario is a sexual assault. And I was like, no, that happens to other people. That doesn't happen to me.
Colleen, welcome to True Blue Yarn, the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So you and I go back, 4 years?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah, when we were in Townsville.
Yep.
And it was actually through Oasis.
It was.
And unfortunately, obviously, the Oasis is no longer running or anything like that. But so many good things came out of that place. And obviously, you being my friend, one of them.
Absolutely.
So I'm very appreciative of you jumping on our first ever podcast.
Oh,
I'm
so excited.
Super excited, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And also color-coded.
I know. Did not plan that at all.
We did not. I thought maybe, blue on theme for the first one. And send each other photos and we're like, cool,
well,
let's do
it.
But yeah, I just want to touch on before we get into it that, you're one of my closest friends. So I know things about you that probably most people don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm really appreciative of that. You are the most kindest and genuine, beautiful soul inside and out. And I feel really lucky to have you as a friend. So
Gotta make me cry.
sorry. But beyond that, you've lived a life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely did. And you've gone through some things. You've grown. You've had to find yourself a few times.
Yeah.
And I know you're still on that journey.
Yeah.
Like all of us.
Yes.
So today just isn't about who you are now. It's about understanding how you got here.
Yeah.
So let's go back way before the military and before everything.
Yeah.
So what was life for Colleen, little Colleen?
Oh, baby Colleen, little cherub she was. I grew up in northern New South Wales in a country town called Inverell. My family had been there for generations, and I grew up on a farm initially, and then we moved closer into town, but it was still on acreage. And I just grew up herding cattle and going down and playing in the paddocks from dawn till dusk, and just chasing cows and sheep and chickens and you name it. I just grew up in the country, like a country life. I learnt how to hunt. I learnt how to shoot rifles at a pretty young age, just because that's the nature of, growing up in the bush, right? A random fact about me is the doctor who actually delivered me was the man who taught me how to shoot my first rifle.
No way.
I know. Small country towns.
I don't know whether that's a scary thing or...
Yeah, right. I don't know. It's
interesting.
Just,
Let's talk more about that.
Yeah, it was really... I think everyone knew everyone. So when I left that small town, it was roughly about 13,000 people population-wise. I think now it's about 25,000. But yeah, it was just everyone knew everyone.
Yep.
I went to school. There was only 2 schools to choose from, depending on which side of town you were on. It just kind of was really, I don't want to say sheltered, but I didn't get exposed to, big city living or anything like that. For a long time, I did go overseas twice before I turned 18. So I went over to Europe on a global young leadership conference.
Interesting.
Yeah, when I was 15.
What was the purpose of that?
Yeah, it was a diplomatic camp. It was a camp for young people from, must have been 14 to 21. And to go and to learn about diplomacy and leadership and, all of those kind of things self-esteem and confidence building you know, going into job roles that I guess were more in the service than anything, which was cool.
Okay.
Like, yeah, you know, like politicians, diplomats. I know that they had like Doctors Without Borders and things like that there that kind of had chats with us. And I kind of think that was the big thing that exposed me to wanting to do something bigger than staying in my hometown. Was, you know, I started going overseas, and then, you know, I went overseas again with a school camp.
So quickly going back to that leadership course or overseas. So you're 15.
Yes.
Was it your decision or your parents?
Kind of, yeah. I got approached by someone who had already done it in the school. She was a friend of my sister's, and she was like, hey, I'm going to nominate you for the next one. And I was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, so sure. Anyway, filled out all of the documentation and stuff like that, and sent it off with not really an understanding of like whether I'd get it or not, or, you know, what it was. And it came back that, yeah, they selected me for it. So my parents put me on a plane, and I had, back in these days, this was like, what, early 2000s. So instead of like Facebook and things like that, we had internet forums.
I mean, Google wasn't really around until like 1998.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're older than Google.
Oh my God, don't remind me. But I'd started talking to this girl who was going from Brisbane on this forum, and we had organised that we would fly overseas together. So me and this girl who was 16, I think, did our first overseas trip together by ourselves.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was wild.
You don't ever hear any of that. Like maybe for like people going to play sport or something, and overseas like study and school, but it's not very common.
No, and especially considering it wasn't like a big group of us. It was just me and this random girl who had never met in person. Our parents had spoken over the phone, and that kind of thing, but we'd never met in person, and they just kind of shipped us off overseas, and we met the group, the leadership conference in Vienna. Yeah, that's where it started. So
how long were you there for?
It was 2 weeks all up, and we went from Vienna to Budapest and Prague. And along the way, you know, they put you into like what they were like country groups. So that was like your group, your country was your group of people.
Like the Australian.
Yeah, the Australian. But we, like all the Australians went together. It was like just randomly selected. Now you're in this one. So for instance, I was in Ukraine was my country. So we got a big ass book just full of facts and information about the Ukraine. Basically told to study it. That's now everything. All of the activities going forward will now be, you'll be representing Ukraine as their diplomat. So yeah, we had to do different workshops and look at, you know, what's the best political angle for, you know, Ukraine, and going into, you know, UN talks and all of that kind of stuff, and how they work with other countries. So it was really interesting. You know, we all like had like Ukrainian flags, and, you know, like we learnt the Ukrainian anthem and all of that kind of random stuff. And yeah, it was like a normal holiday like camp, I guess.
Well, it's not really
not
normal.
Really. No, it's not normal, but like it's kind of like any kind of camp.
It's probably normal in our lives, but it's in the general population, it's probably not that normal.
Yeah, especially I'm off in these like conference center hotels like with 400 other people.
Yeah, like my friend like Christy, she just sent her daughter off to the UK, I think, playing football. Sorry, Christy. Which is madness.
Right? It's wild, right?
Yeah. But it's cool.
It is cool. And I learnt so much. And like, yeah, we were exposed to, you know, so many other cultures, so many other people from other, it's very dominant in the US. So it's actually a US-led conference. And so the majority of people were from the United States. But, you know, we just got exposed to people from all over the world, like these kids, because we were literally children, just all, you know, learning about each other and, you know, making friends. And
How long were you there for again?
It was 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah. And we were traveling around and we saw different places and, you know, we got to be immersed somewhat in the culture of where we were going, doing like little walking tours and different bits and pieces. So it was really interesting to think of that period of my time where I was like so young and I didn't think of myself as anything special back then. I was like, you know, I was an average student.
We had no idea what we were doing.
It was just like a really average student. I wasn't excelling like or failing either way. I was just really average. I guess these opportunities, you know, you've got to take them when they come to you and just by applying,
absolutely.
giving myself that opportunity to go.
That's interesting because I feel like that ties in why you joined the military.
Oh, yeah.
So before we get obviously into that story, I still want to, because I feel like that's a huge turning point for you to make that decision to go into the military. So you're overseas, you're 15, 16, with all these random, you got your bestie from Brizzy at the time.
Yeah.
And do you remember how you were feeling? Like, do you remember like the emotion and just sort of like what was going through your head?
Yeah, it was really surreal. Like, I just remember being like, I'm this country bumpkin from, you know, nowhere.
I understand.
Australia, right?
Yeah.
Like, no one knows where I'm from. Not even the Australians knew where my country town was.
No one knows where Ingham is too. So, yeah.
That's it.
I get that.
Yeah. And it just felt so surreal that I was meeting these people. You know, one of the people that I met was from Trinidad and Tobago, and I was like, where the hell is Trinidad and Tobago? And I was like, you know, like I didn't obviously have Google or anything like that, but they're explaining it. We had world maps and stuff like that. They're like, that's where I live, or this is
how cool back in the day, right? Oh, those big like
globes.
Globes,
and
you just like spin around. It's like, that's where I am.
That was pretty much what we had, because none of us had smartphones. We had like digital cameras, like you're literally carrying around digital cameras.
Did you have the good old flip flops?
Oh, the flip phone things?
Or the Nokias?
No. This was like well before I even had like a proper phone or anything. So I think, like it was just surreal. I just remember it being surreal because, you know, I'd gone on holidays and stuff with my parents and stuff, but never stayed in like these big, you know, conference centers where we're like having buffet breakfasts and like, you know, there's just so many people around. Like I remember distinctly we went on this tour to Mauthausen, which is a concentration camp in Austria. And it was the most harrowing experience to be standing in the courtyard of this concentration camp with 400 other people, all dead silent. Not one person was making a noise. And that was like the gravity of, you know, what had happened there, but also like how we're all the same. Like, no matter where we come from, our backgrounds and things like that, we're all the same.
I can imagine, like, you've seen the movie, what's it called? The PJ.
Oh, yeah, Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Yeah, that's it. And that's just what I can picture when you say that.
Yeah. And it was harrowing is probably the best way to describe it, was just standing there being like, looking around at all these people.
And it was not even that long ago.
No, that's it.
Crazy.
Yeah, and, you know, there was 2 people that were in my country group, and one was a Jewish American and the other one was a German, and they're both just kind of like standing there next to each other, and it's like, you know, we're the next generation of leaders, and it really does like make you feel like the world is so small. And, you know, our little lives on this revolving planet are blips and go by so quickly, right?
Yeah. It's funny because it's not funny, but it's the concept that we have when we are that young, growing into early 20s, that we do feel invincible, and we don't know what we know now, like, you know, we're in our early 30s, it's like, wow, like, it's taken this long for us to be like, shit, life is serious.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's
crazy to think of it, you know. I thought I knew what I wanted, like, you know, when I was obviously young and in my teenage years.
Yeah.
I thought I knew what direction I wanted to be in, and it's crazy to think that, we've come this far and I'm still trying to figure it out.
I think that's the beauty. I think we're going off a little bit off track here, but I think that's the beauty of the unknown. Like, if we knew where we were going, like, okay, in 10 years, you're going to be this person or you're going to be doing this. The journey to get there wouldn't be as fun, like, because you already know what was coming.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what makes our stories so interesting, is because our journey to get to the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty cool. And I think that's what my early years, you know, especially that trip and stuff like that, like, I had no idea what to expect going over. And, you know, I was like what I'd never been on a big aircraft. The only aircraft I'd ever flown on was like little, like, bug smashers or like little like Dash 8s, like just small planes, right? And then I'm getting onto this like 7.0.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, there's like, they serve me food? Like, what is this? This is insane, you know? So I was just like this little country bumpkin kid that was just like, the big wide world was just open to her.
Yeah.
And I think that really gave me that, like, drive to be, you know, to push myself into situations where I don't know what's going to happen and it's uncomfortable, but that's the thrill of it. It's almost like an adrenaline junkie. You know,
so when you came back to Australia, so you have a really awesome time over there. You learned heaps. What do you remember the moment when you came back? Because I feel like a part of you would have changed.
Oh, definitely.
Because that's a huge adult thing to do at 15, 16. So for you to come back to Australia, like, how did that change you? Did it impact you? Did it?
Yeah, I think it really, it changed my thought process on I guess, where I'd come from. And like, I kind of looked around and I'm like, you know, I'm the, first person in my friendship groups that's flown overseas. And I'm, you know, out of my siblings, I was the first one to go overseas. My brother and sister hadn't gone overseas yet. And you know, we didn't do overseas family holidays or anything like that. That was kind of inconceivable to me before this. To then being like, oh my God, the entire world is open to me, and I just couldn't wait to get out of Inverell. I couldn't wait to get out of that small town. And I'd always had a fascination with aircraft, and then that, you know, traveling was now like this thing that I just wanted to do so badly.
Which makes sense.
Right? I was just like, I just want to get on I want to get on my aircraft. I want to go see more places and discover more stuff. So yeah, it really drove me to like want to get out of Inverell as fast as I could.
Yeah. So coming back to Australia, you know, the first person of doing everything, friendship and family, do you think in that moment too, like, do you think your friends or family had anything against you in a way of like you experiencing that and they didn't?
Yeah, there probably was a little bit like, who does she think she is kind of mentality. And I wasn't fully aware of it at the time, but I definitely think looking back, it's like, you know, I had done this big thing. And I kind of downplayed it because I don't know, maybe it's just the tall poppy syndrome or the imposter syndrome that kind of kicked in, but I kind of downplayed it of like, oh, you know, it's not that big of a deal. People go overseas all the time, like whatever. But who at 14, 15 goes overseas by themselves?
Yeah, right.
You know? So yeah, it's like something that now looking back in hindsight, I'm like, oh man, like you had like such incredible experiences, and because it wasn't the last time that I would go overseas while I was still at school. And I think that in itself, like that then became like something that I was striving to do now. It's like the next opportunity to go overseas, I was straight on it. It's like, this is what I have to do. And I was grateful that my parents, you know, were able to give me that opportunity and support that opportunity. Yeah, the unfortunate thing was like it was, I'd gotten some inheritance from the death of a grandparent, and that's what paid for these trips. Because we weren't really well off as a family. But, you know, I was grateful that, you know, I had the opportunity to do it because of that inheritance, as sad as it is.
Yeah.
And I know that that's what my grandmother, you know, really would have loved, was, you know, to know that I was like getting given these opportunities to really grow into like this, you know, worldly person.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I actually didn't know that about you.
I
don't think we've actually ever spoken.
No, I don't think we have.
About that. So it's cool. It's interesting because me knowing you in a whole nother, obviously, perspective than people probably, you know, watching and listening to this, and other people that know of you, is that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, your story actually makes sense. Not like it's not meant to make sense, but like it's just, you know, those, like, going over that leadership, flying, and then how that is going to, you know, you're about to go share us more about the pre-military story, and it's aligning with it. So it's pretty cool to listen and for sharing. So with all that, and you know, I completely understand with the small town country. Not so much we're in the middle of nowhere. We're on the coastline. It's an hour north from Townsville, Ingham, and I can definitely relate how a small town can even affect someone, you know, especially who's not wealthy or doesn't have a for up there it's like a cane farm or anything like that. So I would only assume it's probably a similar effect for you. It
definitely is. Like, for us, it was cattle farm. So cattle farming and sheep and cotton. But it's like, it's, you know, the really like affluent people, the townies and stuff like that. It was different. It's different for us.
So I guess, you know, a little bit more inside of your childhood of growing up and, you know, seemed to be very just normal during school and having that experience. I do feel like it's tied to the military. So I guess what had led you to actually join the military, and was there any sort of turning point, or did you feel like forced, or what was it that you wanted to be like, yep, let's go into the ADF? I'd always had a bit of a fascination with defence. I'd always really, you know, been drawn to that. My great aunt and my great uncle both served in the Second World War, and my great uncle served in Korea. And I'd done like a school project on my great uncle and stuff like that. So I'd always had this fascination with it, but I always thought I would go into a medical profession. So I really wanted to do medic or nursing. Yeah. And
when, like, that was what my heart was set on. I will say this now, I did do cadets.
You kind of left that part out, didn't
you? Don't judge me. For a little while and quit that, and got a job instead, you know, something that'll actually
pay the
bills. You know, pay for my play money. But yeah, there's always something that I'd been really interested in and had a fascination with, and Inverell has like a really great veteran community, very strong veteran community, which I've since kind of known, have found out about. We had our Return Servicemen's League club, and that was like the only place in town to go. It was like, it was just all, you know, memorabilia and all the old vets all sitting around on an Anzac Day and stuff like that was really fascinating to me. So I got through to year 11, and I was like pretty hell-bent on doing something like nursing or medic, and I tried really hard in year 11, and then
What do you mean by that?
I was like I was really applying myself in year 11, got really good marks in year 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then year 12 rolled around and it all just fell apart. I was just like, and I'm done. Like, I tried hard. I did my, I did
What made you have that switch of like...
I actually don't know what particularly it was. Maybe it was a bit of burnout. Maybe it was,
like hormones.
Yeah, hormones. Yeah. It could have been a bunch of things. But I just know that it just all fell out from underneath me. And although I had pre-selection into 3 different unis, when I went through to sit my HSC, I had pre-selection into nursing and paramedicine. I was like, nah, I think I'm done with study. Like I'm real burnt out. I don't want to study. I want to take a year off. And then I started looking into the gap year program that was really new at that stage. So this is 2008. So I go to a U session, I start talking to the guy, did all my testing and stuff like that, and started talking to the guy, and he's like, this is your sheet of paper with all the things that you can,
all the jobs
that you can go into.
And
it,
like 20 of them.
I'm like, I hadn't unlocked that many above the line, but below the line, I'd unlocked quite a few. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And one of them was gap year, and I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to take a gap year. So I started talking to the guy, and he's like, yeah, cool. We'll put you through to the gap year. And went through and did all my testing and everything like that, and got through to doing my fitness testing, passed that. 2 weeks later, I was on the bus to...
Wow, yours was so quick.
Yeah, so it was like, so I had my first testing in July.
Then again, I know why they were recruiting back then too.
Yeah, so it was like first testing, so U session was in July. I think I had all my testing and medical assessments and everything like that September. Got my letter in October to say you're in. Just got to pass the PFT, like your basic testing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. And they were like, but you've still got to pass your HSC level in English, maths and science. So I'm like October and
so hang on, why RAAF?
Because why not? Like, why would you choose any other? Like, the uniforms are cooler. They have planes. Like,
you don't need to explain, but for the people who don't know what military is.
Yeah, so my great aunt was a WAFI.
Yeah.
And so back then that was the Women's Auxiliary Air Force.
Yeah.
And I was in the Air Force Cadets, and I just had a lot of influence into the RAAF. I just was fascinated with aircraft, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And I don't know, the uniforms look better. I'm sure I'll get some flack for that.
Look, I'm Army, and look, I do have to agree. Even polys.
Yeah. So
it
was like, so October of 2008, I'd gotten my letter, and they were like, yep, you're going. You've just got to pass your HSC and pass your fitness test, and you're on the bus. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I skated through my HSC. I did not try for the rest of that year. I was like, I just have to get passes. I don't have to try too hard.
I feel like, in military, courses.
Yeah.
Depends what it is and what you're going for, obviously, but there are some are just tick and flick.
Yeah. So I did.
Which is concerning.
Yeah, it is a little bit concerning. I did pass, obviously, because I went in. And then because I had to travel to the nearest bigger town where there was a reservist unit, which was Armidale, which is I think an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I had to organise with them to do my basic fitness tests, so I had to travel. It was so much. So throughout this entire experience, my recruitment, I started my U session in Coolangatta. Then my second testing was in Brisbane, which is, so Coolangatta's easily 6 hours away. Brisbane at the time was probably 7 hours away. And then I had to travel to Armidale, which is 2 hours away, to do like my fitness testing. So there's a lot of sacrifice that my parents had to make to like get me to these sessions, which I'm really thankful for as well.
Because how old were you at the time?
So this was like I had just turned 17, in the March. So I turned 17 in the March.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm like still quite young. Didn't have a license or anything like that to drive myself, which also dictated which job I gravitated towards. So yeah, I just kind of I am appreciative of the sacrifice that like my family had to make to get me to those things. So I coasted through, finished my HSC, passed barely.
Pass is a pass.
Right. I think I got in the 60s and 70s. Like, I mean, it was, it was average. And then, passed my basic fitness test 2 weeks before I was shipped off.
Yeah.
So I had to travel up to Brisbane again to do my enlistment. And that was in the January of 2009. So I actually enlisted the day after Australia Day.
Do you remember in that moment at enlistment, like, this is what I'm doing? Like, did you get that, like, fuck yeah?
I was kind of more like, fuck no. Like, what am I doing? Is this actually what I want to do?
What were you feeling in that moment then? Like,
so much like excitement and anxiety and holy shit. And I remember I kept repeating to myself, it's fine. You don't need to know everything. They will teach you everything you need to know. You don't need to be on top of everything. You don't need to know everything before you go. They will teach you everything you need to know. Just go be basically a blank canvas. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know what kind of weird higher power wisdom, higher self wisdom came
I think
to me then.
I think from, when you went overseas at 15, 16 and you experienced that whole different perspective and the way that you perceive things now, I think that definitely would have had some sort of effect of your thinking mechanism when you're going through that.
Absolutely.
Which to me, like obviously me listening to that side of the story for the first time, that I could see how that linked up.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. I don't even know what I was thinking through. My parents didn't even know I was joining because I was 19 at the time. I had my red peas in my a Mazda 3 that I had, champagne colour. And I drove myself through all the testings, and then when I got my letter of acceptance, it's like, hey, Mum and Dad, going to the army.
I remember that day that I opened the letter, and it was like me and Mum were at home. No one else was at home. And I was like opening it and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like almost hyperventilating. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going. Oh my God, I got accepted. Holy shit. Oh my God. And, she was like super happy as well. And it was just like, it was that reminder that I wasn't staying. And I think that's kind of what really gave me confidence to go into that with that mindset of, you don't need to know everything. Like, this is fine. Was that, I was leaving. I was leaving this little country town that I was so desperate to leave. And I was about to have another experience that opened the world to me again. You believe all the recruitment ads, you know.
They had it pretty good back then, I reckon.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they really nailed it, I think. So yeah, like I joined up.
Not so much right now, but we'll leave that out.
So I got shipped off on the 27th of January 2009, and flew from Brisbane to Melbourne, and arrived in Melbourne with I think it was 98 other gap years kids. We were literally kids. We were between the ages of like 17 and 21, because with the way that the gap year program ran, it was like straight from school or had finished school and was within like 1 year of finishing school. So I think the oldest one of us was 21.
Yeah.
So you can imagine.
So where was it, Wagga?
No, it was in Point Cook in Melbourne. So
so you went there first? Yeah.
So
I think we did the same thing.
We had a really odd way of laying out our recruitments because we were the test subjects for whether the gap year would work. So the previous year had gone through and they were like, scrap that didn't work, which was the 2008 model. And the 2009 model came in and they were like, all right, we're going to try again. So they sent half of us to Wagga and half of us to Point Cook in Melbourne. And it was like randomly selected, I think, like who went where. So me and half of the group went to Point Cook and we were split up into 2 separate flights and we were on Point Cook. And now if you know anything about aviation history or Air Force history, like that was the first Air Force base. And it has the military museum on it, the Air Force museum on it, and the balloon, the Air Force balloon. So we're on this bare base that's got no one else on it, just the museum. And they've had to bring in people from Laverton to like man the mess and stuff for us. And the only people on this base, the entire base, is us and our staff and the occasional Serco people that would come through to do cooking and cleaning. I'm 100% sure my room was haunted.
Yeah, look, probably.
Like, I rocked up.
Whole training establishments, like everywhere, would be
100% haunted. 100%.
Like the stories back then. Yeah.
And so I rocked into this thing and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Because, it's the yelling, it's the screaming at you to get off the bus. And
when you got off to the bus, like for us at Kapuka, like, because we were still in our smart civvies and I was wearing heels.
Yeah, same.
Like skinny heel, but they weren't too high. They were kind of like, they were still like short enough.
Yeah.
And then they want us to like march in the down on the footpath and we were like, what do you mean marching? Like just walking, right? I like remember it so well too. It was just yelling, screaming as soon as we got on they would have loved it too. Oh. I would have like. I look back, I'm like, I would froth that.
100%. Our MSIs were probably like, yes, this is going to be great.
Some fresh meat.
Yeah, that's it. I remember rocking into the Melbourne airport and like being like chirpy and all like, this bubbly little 17-year-old. And I walked over to the MSI and I'm like, oh, I'm here. And he just started just absolutely roasting me. And I was just like, oh, okay. Kind of had been slightly, warned about it, just because, I had met people who had gone into the military from Inverell and, that kind of thing, and from like cadets and stuff. Like I wasn't, it wasn't new to me to be like screamed at to like go somewhere and be on time or whatever. So yeah, it was an interesting thing, and we did our 11.4 weeks of recruits at Point Cook. We went to Wagga for our field phase, which was basically they just did field phase in a 2-week block where we did a week of like practice runs and learning how to be outfield, a weekend in the middle which was like our like CBR&D training, so we're in full mop gear, like we didn't get gassed but they made us do everything in our like kit, and it was the hottest. So this is 2009, so this is when like Ash Wednesday had happened. Like it was a really, really horrendous summer, and it was still hot in, oh God, this was like March, April that we were going through it, so it was still freaking hot. And then a week outfield doing all of our like, field stuff, and wow, Air Force field. We're all in dugouts.
You were 17.
Yeah.
this I reckon you're pretty with it switch on young woman at age 17. Most people might go in as oblivious to what they're about to, I guess, get. I was kind of 50. My parents were reservists. My dad was a natural. He was a corporal, and he had that natural voice and tone. So I was quite like with the yelling and just screaming and just being loud. I'm used to. But being, yourself, 17, first experience and exposure of this, and you were there for a few months. What were you feeling in those moments? Like,
definitely went in waves of like, what have I done? There was moments where I was like, I'd ring home sobbing, being like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Yeah. Like, what have I done? This is like so shit. And it's part of it, right? It's the part of the breaking down process that they put you through in that, that real indoctrination process through recruits. They break you down. So you are so tired, you're exhausted, you're questioning everything about you. And then I think that's around about like the 4 weeks, 6 weeks in, you're really like questioning everything about yourself. You're fully broken. And then they start to rebuild you, and you start to get your confidence back and everything like that. And it's what I needed at that time, because I guess had these worldly experiences and stuff like that, but I wasn't an overly confident person. Like, I exuded this like outwards, like it looked like I was confident, but on the inside I was just like this little puddle. Definitely, very, very much like unsure of myself, and would second guess myself, and had, issues with self-esteem and self-worth. So it definitely, like after recruits, I felt, 10 foot tall and bulletproof, but I definitely going through it, you go through those moments of like, what have I done?
Yeah. Do you have any funny stories that you've done that were like,
oh, yes. So I had a dodgy lock. We were in these really old lines, and I had a dodgy lock and a dodgy light. So my light in my bedroom was red. For some reason, it just shone red. And I just, all of the jokes about it being the red light district were, it's funny. And then I had this dodgy lock where I would lock it, but it wouldn't actually lock. So I got done for insecurity 3 times. I got done.
We love that.
Yeah.
We love that.
And I was like, So on the 3rd time, they were like, all right, you're going to take everything that's not bolted down in your room. So this is bed frame, mattress, everything out of my cupboard, wardrobe, everything off, like everything. You're going to march it down to the HQ building. You're going to set your bedroom up in inspection order on the veranda of the HQ building. They'd gone to the effort of like dragging out a wardrobe from the HQ building, somewhere they found it, and putting it on this veranda. And I had my bed, like bed frame, everything was set up, like bounce a coin off it tight, like perfect inspection order, all my shoes lined up underneath it, all my bags, all my gear in the cupboard, like hung up perfectly, spaced, everything. And the whole day it had to be picketed by my flight. So my flight got punished for it. So we had to organise, this picket. And then at 15 minutes to 10 o'clock, which was curfew, they were like, all right, pack everything up, take it back to your room and set it back up in inspection order. So we're like running down the road with like mattress and bed frames and like dive bags full of clothes and shoes and stuff like that. And we're just like sprinting towards the block to like get back to the block, get everything in it, get everything like inspection order for 10 o'clock, which was lights out, when the MSIs would be coming through to be like checking that you are in bed. And then we still had to maintain the picket for the rest of the night. So like from that moment on, I was like public enemy number 1.
Was that the first time you've ever done picket too?
That was
yeah.
we
You're
hadn't.
like, what the fuck's a picket?
Yeah, I don't think we had actually gotten weapons yet at that point.
Yeah, wow.
So so we were like, we actually hadn't done any
We-
pickets or anything
I'm
like
pretty
that.
sure we started our weapon training like instantly.
Yeah,
And if we didn't remember our PM keys, we would be like getting like disciplined.
oh yeah,
It got drilled in us. And I remember because obviously you have to put like your first 3 letters of your last
Yeah.
name and the first 3 of your PM keys.
yeah.
And I completely fucked my on my shirt.
No.
And so I'm that loser, right?
I misspelled
my
my
brown
name on the shirt.
shirt.
Yeah.
With E, then it's meant to be an L, but I put like something else. It wasn't lined, so I had to like cross. Oh, and even my like my backpack and everything. It was.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had my, what was it, my PT shirt, and I'd misspelt my last name on my PT shirt.
Like,
and I was
how?
like, yeah, exactly. How? And because we didn't have access to the clothing store because it was on the other base.
Yeah.
We had to like get ferried over
No,
there.
we couldn't even do that.
We couldn't go and get replacements or anything. But I just found it so funny, like, that they came up with such good punishments for us. Like, who would think? Who would have thought
They
do
love
that,
that. Like
right?
that's probably
It would have been more fun.
Yeah,
for them.
it would have. Like looking back now, but at the time they were just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then, but like looking back now, it's like, yeah, that's sick. That's so funny.
Absolutely. I remember other times where like we just would hear the flight downstairs just getting absolutely roasted. And one time one of the girls hadn't cleaned her rifle because we had it like laid out on our ground sheet on our bed, like full stripped, and that was part of our room inspections. And the MSI came in and was like, this is shit.
Yeah.
And flipped the mattress with the rifle on it, and like bits and pieces going everywhere. And then they had to sleep outside under hoochies for 3 nights.
You had the styles?
Yes.
Yeah.
The old school ADF styles with the,
yeah.
not the,
It's the plastic
rail.
bum?
Yeah, it's a plastic bum, but it had the fixed sight,
Sight.
not the rail.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was like just, they were.
Yeah, we had the rail when I went through.
So yeah, it was an interesting time. Like I look back and I'm like, I was hating it obviously at the time, as you do, but you look back now and you're like, oh, these memories that I get to trauma bond with all of my other fellow recruits.
Oh, when you look back and start remembering bits and pieces, you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
So you finish your basic training.
Yep.
And then did you go to holding or straight to your first unit?
So for us, because it was gap year, we did our 3 months of recruits, and then we did a few like little sightseeing visits to like East Sale and Canberra and Wagga and stuff like that, just to like get a taste of like what was going on within the wider Defence Force. And it was a recruiting drive, so they were trying to show us the best parts. And then we got split up again, so the people who did their recruits in Wagga went to Newcastle, the people who did their recruits in Point Cook went to Amberley, and we did OTS. So we basically did recruits and then like officer recruits again. So we're going through like doing OTS because we all enlisted as officer cadets. Well, we didn't have a commission or anything like that because you don't get your commission until you finish your officer training. So we did that up in Amberley, and I decided that I didn't want to go through with finishing the last 6 weeks of OTS. I also wasn't really applying myself. I was kind of like over training and doing all the like crap. So they gave me the option to like go on this field exercise, which was Talisman Sabre 09. They had positions for us out on Bradshaw Range, which is out near Timber Creek, like, south of Katherine, doing just whatever that the range control needed.
Yeah.
So there was a few of us that did, there was a few of the others that did like basically they were like range control picket at the entry to like going onto the range, where the bombs are actually dropped. And then there was a couple of us that did like what we called gopher duties. So you like go for this, go for that. And that was our call sign, was gopher. So we would like collect lunches for range control. We would open the front gate and let people on, check IDs, all of that kind of stuff. And we were just kind of doing whatever. So I did that for 2 weeks, sleeping in 11x11 tents.
Mm-hmm. That must be nice.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. It was luxury. We had I think we had stretchers and our sleeping bags and our mozzie nets.
Yeah, look, I can't complain too much. You know, I was a truckie and I had my truck and I had my swag most of the time, especially TS.
Yeah.
Unless we get attached to like an infantry or artillery, that's a complete different story. But even just a unit bush, like that week that we do, we like to act like we're frontline, so that's a bit different, but majority of the time we are on our trucks anyway. But
it was wild for me. I'm like, I'm used to living in the lines and you know, like on air bases, so this you know, where in the mountain, like there was demountable buildings for like the mess and stuff like that, but the showers there were like just cubicles, no doors for the toilets. And then the shower was just a big patch of cement, like it was all walled off, but it just a big patch of cement with a drain in the middle and shower heads around the outside on the wall. So there's no privacy whatsoever. So you had to pick your times of when you went to shower and stuff. And we were sharing that space with the Marines. They had a surgical team there. The Marine surgical team was there, so they had a surgical tent all set up. So I actually was able to stand in and watch one of our guys get a skin cancer removed from his shoulder by the surgical team because they were bored and they were like, we just need something to do, and fainted and had the biggest African American Marine catch me before I hit the ground I've ever met. He was huge, and drag me, like just skull drag me outside. But yeah, it was just another cool experience of like talking, because the JTACs were there too, and talking to the American JTACs and the Marines and like the civvy contractors who were all ex-defence as well. They were all ex-SAS or whatever. It's just like another wild little experience. And this, so I had turned 18 in the March of 2009. So I'm still like very young, just a fetus with a rifle. Yeah.
So let's go into your actual military career.
Yeah, sure.
I know that you've been deployed and all that, and I know that you've experienced some stuff as being a female as well, if you're open to share with that. So I guess the question is, you know, being a female in the military itself as a whole, it can be quite daunting, it can be quite challenging. Obviously we're faced in this male dominant area. So what is your take and experience on being a female in defence?
So from the very beginning, from the point at which I even joined as a gap year, you know, it was like I was not supposed to be there. We had this stigma from the previous year of being gap years that, you know, we're all sluts. You know, we're all there to just party and you know, all that kind of stuff. So when we got farmed out to our units at the end of the year after we'd finished OTS or whatever, I went to a airfield defence guard unit, and I was like one of like 6 women in the entire unit of like AGIs. And I was 18, and like I was blonde and wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and never really had any like interest from the boys. So I hadn't really been like had any interest from boys or anything like that. So I was like, oh my God, like now I'm getting exposed to everyone trying to sleep with me, basically. Like,
Yeah.
getting hit on all the time, getting harassed, like, and I think that was like my earliest memories and experiences when I joined the military, was just this like, oh, you're just there for morale. That's what they called us, morale boosters.
Yeah.
So after that, you know, going into a trade, because after gap year, I joined as a life support fitter. So I went off to Wagga and did my 9 months in Wagga, and I was the only female on my life support fitter course. And
How did you feel about that, being the only female?
like I'd kind of gotten used to it by now. Like I was like, oh, well, this is the way it goes. Like this is the way I'm going to go into this career. Is I'm just going to be one of the minority. And I kind of had that acceptance of it, although I was like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just had this acceptance of being the minority. So I remember, you know, getting through like the 9 months and stuff like that. I had one person on my course who was becoming inappropriate, and I actually feared for my safety at one point that he was going to like break into my room, and he was sending me inappropriate texts and stuff like that, and it didn't matter how many times I was like, no. He just kept going, and that was, you know, reported. And then the stigma behind being the person to report behaviour like that was, you know, you're not, you know, playing the game. Like, you need to just suck it up. This is what it is. Boys will be boys type attitude. And then that kind of kept going in like comments about I had gotten the CO's award as for my basic training. And I remember one of the corporals saying, oh, you only got it because you were female. Like, none of us wanted you to get it. The only reason why you got it was because you were female. And I was like, great.
I understand that.
Yeah, so it's like the first award I'd ever received while being in defence was boiled down to me being female. So that kind of like shaped obviously how I saw myself. And moving forward, like I was like, well, so they don't say it's only because I'm female, I have to work harder. But at the same time, you know, I was battling with, I'd been sexually assaulted. I had been drink spiked and raped. I had been...
Was that during your service?
During my service, yeah. So by other uniformed people, I was sexually assaulted by a doctor on base at the base medical. And, you know, I'm like, this is starting to shape my reality of how I saw myself, and my self-worth started to plummet. I'm like, well, you know, I'm just this piece of meat. Like, no one respects me. Then I started not respecting myself. And then, you know, I kind of thought like, well, I'll just have to work twice as hard. But nothing I did ever, you know, equated to someone just saying good job, like you're a good operator. Was always like, oh, you know, you're just under the desk with the warrant officer, like, you know, that kind of stuff. Like these comments about, you know, the tit assist and all of that kind of stuff. My entire career, I then got to a point where I started to be really defensive, and I started to get real prickly with everyone I worked with. And my default setting was aggression.
You're in like a fight mode because...
Absolutely, because my workplace was no longer safe.
Yeah.
Because I never knew which one of the good blokes was going to be the one to assault me or to harass me or to spread rumours about me or
even protect you.
Yeah, and I never knew who was going to protect me, who to trust. Now, I say this knowing that there were some amazing human beings, like men who I served with, who didn't 100% know what was going on, but I could trust them you know, I felt safe with them. But unfortunately, it got to a point where, yeah, my default setting was aggression. My default setting was being prickly, and, you know, I didn't want to be friends with anyone I worked with. I didn't want to associate with anyone I worked with, regardless of what they'd done or who they were or anything like that. I just really started to struggle mentally as well. You know, there was really large periods of time, and this is, you know, this is leading up to, I deployed with Orions, so I did like op resolutes. I did quite a few of those, and op slipper, so over in the Middle East in AMAB. And, you know, I'm like deploying only female once again, on these trips, surrounded by guys, just trying to fit in, trying not to be a target, trying to play along and be the you know, one of the boys, but you're never really one of the boys. Not really, you know. You can try and get along with them and stuff like that, but you're never truly like one of the boys. Especially when, you know, you're I guess conventionally attractive as well.
Yeah.
You become a target.
Yeah.
And
I can resonate with that.
Yeah. You also, like, I definitely take responsibility in my part that I had to play with that, was because I was always in this fight or flight kind of mode that it was more like fight, flight, freeze and fawn, you know, that in order to protect myself, a lot of the time I just fawned. It was like, it's actually easier for me to just fawn and just give in and just, you know.
And I think that comes from, like, obviously past experiences of how we attach and detach from people.
Yeah.
And especially being, you know, we're in early 20s.
Yeah, yeah.
At the time, it's like you don't really know much more or better or worse. It's just like, that's just what you're so used to and conditioned.
Yeah,
thinking
absolutely.
It's normal, but knowing it's not normal. Like, it's weird.
Absolutely. And being almost gaslit into this is normal behaviour, that you're just meant to, like, sit there and take that, those comments about your, you know, sleeping around, or, you know, your comments about...
You actually start to believe it.
Right. Yes.
I completely understand.
Yeah. And then you play into it, because you're like, well, if they're going to say it about me, what's the point in trying to, you know, be the perfect little girl that and you know, be well behaved, if they're going to say it about me, whether I sleep with them or not. It's like, you sleep with them, you're a slut. You don't sleep with them, you're a bitch. Or they say they slept with you, and or even, like, if you say no, then there is that element of, like, if they're a higher rank than you and you turn them down and stuff like that, what are the repercussions of that? And I think that's the reality for a lot of women, not just in defence, but a lot of women with this power imbalance when it comes to male and female workplaces, and male dominated workplaces, especially hypermasculine ones like defence, like mining, you know, emergency services, whatever it is. You know, that's the reality for a lot of women, is that we're all subjected to, or a lot of us have been subjected to, that harassment, that constant, like, pushing of boundaries, that our no doesn't mean no. You know, but in reality, no is a full sentence.
Yeah.
No justification required.
You don't need any explanation.
Exactly.
So, given, you know, you touched on the surface level, which I think it speaks volumes anyway of your experience, and you know, it's brought up some things that I've been through quite similar, and it's sad. Like, it's, I know that we've processed it, and, like, you know, we're very open to speaking about it, but it's just so common that people don't realize how common it is.
Yeah.
I think things are changing now, which is great to see, but I feel like it's too late.
Yeah, for a lot of us, it
Yeah.
really is. You
Yeah.
know, like you said, we've processed it. We've talked about this. You know, just in our friendship, we've talked a lot
Yeah.
about this, and it's like I grieve for the 20,
The one that are going
21-year-old.
through
Yeah,
now.
you know, the 20, 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
And the 20, 21-year-old me, and those other women who went through it before me, who were like, well, that's the shtick, you
Yeah.
know.
But you know, also, I don't know about you, but I had females like bullying me, which is a whole nother bag of worms we won't go into today. But like, it even just goes, it's just not the men. Like, there are females out there that are just as bad.
Yeah, it's that internalized misogyny that comes from being indoctrinated into this defense culture, right? Is that, you know, in order to be one of the boys, you've got to, you know, act like one of the boys. And if another one of your female brethren are the focus of being the butt of the joke, or, you know, or a threat in any way, you're in fight or flight. So, you know, you're like, it's every man for themselves out there. And if I have to step on your throat in order to get the boot off of mine, I will do it, which is really sad. And that internalized misogyny has been something that I've also had to chip away at and really come to terms with, like, how much internalized misogyny that I harbor and how that manifests for me in the way I look at myself and the way that I treat others. And that's, I think, something that's also not just for people who are in defence as well. That's, you know, women in a lot of male-dominated environments, in corporate environments as well, where it's, you know, it's dog eat dog out there. And we've got to remember that we've got to stick together, because if we're not, like, helping each other up, we're actually doing the rest of the female species, like, a disservice by trying to tear them down.
Was there ever a moment where you felt close to breaking point?
Many times.
What got you through it?
I think it was just pure spite. I just didn't want to let these people win, or to see me weak and broken. But definitely there was multiple occasions where I was self-harming, and I was suicidal. I remember coming back from the Middle East, and for months, every day that I drove to work, I had to drive over the same train tracks. And every day to and from work, I was like, oh, what if I just stopped? Or what if I just, you know, drove through those, because I knew what time the train came. It was the same time, and it was around about knock-off, and around about the time that I was going to work as well. Every day I would stop at the same train tracks. It's like, what if
That
I
makes
just...
me sad.
Right?
Yeah.
It does. It makes me grieve for that person as well, because I would drive up to...
How old were you?
21.
21.
So I'd drive up to the gates to show my IDs. I'd drive up to, like, swipe into the Teco area, and I would just burst into tears. I would have panic attacks driving up to work, being like, I don't want to be here. I am miserable. There was so much sabotage that I was doing to myself. You know, self-harm was one of them. Cutting was one of them. Drinking in excess was another. Like, partying, you know, I was like, whatever. You know, never drugs. You know, would never touch drugs while I was, you know, serving 100%, but a lot of alcohol consumed. And I think, you know, I was lucky to a point that I had my sister in Adelaide with me at that time. I remember driving to her house for a little while every afternoon, just bursting in tears, being like, I can't do this anymore. And that was early in my career too. And I had many more years ahead of me to kind of get through it. And luckily enough, I'd posted out of that unit the next year or the end of that year, went to my new unit where I found community, I found support, I found friendship, I found love, and I had the best 3 years of my life at, working with the Navy on MRH 90s. And, I just remember that actually broke me out of it. But that was also the time that I sat with a psychologist and came to the realization of what had happened to me in the years leading up to that. So, I was explaining to her these things that had happened, and she goes, "Do you know what that actually is?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Do you know that is rape? And what you're actually explaining is rape. And what you're explaining to me now in that scenario is a sexual assault." And I was like, "No, that happens to other people. That doesn't happen to me."
Oh my God, I'm getting emotional.
And I kind of was like, wait, you're telling me like, and then I had to come to terms with that, right? It's like my whole world crumbled because now I'm not just someone who had been through something, but I am someone who is now like labeled as a victim, or now I'm a victim survivor. It's like, how do I move forward with my life knowing that had happened to me? And it, to me, it must sound so weird to be like, how did you not know you were raped? Yeah. But my brain was so scrambled and my self-worth was so bad and my mental health was so bad that I couldn't put it together as something like,
I get it,
like rape. It's like, okay, fuck. Well, now that was the point in which I had to rebuild. I was like, all right, we've come to the point where we're like, all right, we've accepted that is what has happened to me. That happened. All right, now how do we move past this? So I did a lot of work in rebuilding. Found the gym, found exercising and stuff like that, and got super fit. And then my knees gave out. So, in the midst of rebuilding myself, my body started to break down. And I do believe that your body keeps the score.
Is it still, you're still serving?
Yeah, still serving.
Yeah.
So still with the Navy, and this was like 2015, 2016 that I'm like going through all of that. And I think I'd held so much trauma in my body and so much.
It just gave way.
It just started to give way. So I like trained my ass off because that was my coping mechanism. And I got my injuries and had to have surgery. So I had my first surgery in 2016 and then posted up to Brisbane, and then had my next surgery every 6 months from then on.
And most of these were pointless. From stories I've been hearing from other people with surgery, it's like, just have surgery, the first thing to fix it. But I just feel like it really wasn't majority of the time. Yeah,
and they said to me, they're like, there's nothing that can fix what's happened to you, because I just had no cartilage left in my knees. I'd just worn them out. I had basically the knees of a 60-year-old, and I was 25 at this stage. They're like, well, you're kind of screwed. So we can either do this surgery and prolong the longevity of your knees and hope that you don't need a knee replacement by 35, or you don't do the surgery and you stay in pain and you need a knee replacement by 35. Now I'm 35 now, which is crazy that this was 10 years ago. So, like then going through the medical discharge process, because I got to the point where I'm like, I can't do it,
Yeah, let's touch on your transition.
Yeah.
From defense.
Yeah, and it was hard. Like, so I did so much recovery, so much rehab, was in with the physios almost every day. I was doing hydrotherapy every day. I was, that last like 12 months, because I'd picked up my second hook at that stage as well. So this is 2018.
So your second hook, what do you mean?
So I was corporal. Yeah.
Just
so,
for people who don't know what it is.
Yeah. So I'd been promoted to corporal at that stage. This is 2018. And I'm going through and I'm doing like half days, and like half my day was spent in the squadron, and then the other half was spent at the gym and like at hydrotherapy and at the medical centre and all of that kind of stuff. And I got to the point where I was like, I'm exhausted. Nothing's working. My knees aren't getting better. I can't pass my PFT because I can't, I couldn't do the walk without being completely crippled. And their answer to that was, we'll just give you some Penadine Fort. We'll just drug you up before, and then we'll put you on like some really heavy duty anti-inflammatories. And I was like, really? That doesn't sound good. Also, allergic to codeine. Penadine Fort not going to work. I'll be vomiting my way around that track. So they recommended me for med discharge. And that's a process all on its own, It's a hard process to come to terms with the fact that, I knew I didn't want to be in for life, but I didn't think it was going to be cut short at that point. I was just coming up to my 10 years. So January 2019 was going to be my 10-year anniversary, and I just scraped through.
So you left in 2019?
Yeah. So went through that process of, going to central medical review, and then getting my determination of medical discharge, and then having 4 months from that time till I discharged. So my discharge date was the 31st of May 2019. The next day, I went and got half my body tattooed.
Yeah, so you had no tattoos.
I did have a few, but they weren't visible.
Yeah.
I had a few tattoos, but it weren't visible, and I just booked in for the next day. My first day as a civvy, I sat with my amazing friend Carla, and she tattooed me for like 8 hours straight.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, what like when you transition, and obviously your first day as a civilian, like, did you feel lost, or did you have a direction? And by the sounds,
I think I felt free.
Yeah,
I think I'd accepted the medical discharge. I'd accepted that process.
Yeah, I think maybe because you knew it was coming for a while.
Yeah, and I kind of had said to them, I'm like, I'm exhausted, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, let's go for medical discharge, because I'm in so much pain all the time. Like I can't do my job. I feel useless. I'm taking up a spot that could be, utilised by someone who's fully fit. I'm sick of being that broken corporal at work. Coming to terms with all of that, I was like, all right, next chapter. Like, I was ready for the next chapter. So I actually decided before I discharged that I would take my long service leave. So I took the 3 months of long service leave to actually start doing university full time. I did a double degree in business and communications with a double major of PR and professional comms. I haven't finished it. I did like 8 units. And this is probably the undiagnosed ADHD. I was just like, all right, what's next? I've done some stuff. What's next? So yeah, I'd taken that time to like start my degree, and then my first day as a civvy, it was also uni holidays, and I was like, I'm gonna get tattooed. So I got tattooed, and I got my favorite book tattooed on me, The Red Tree by Sean Tan, and it's all about mental health and coming out the other side after big depression. And I was just like, it just seemed fitting. It just seemed really fitting for my life at that point. But I don't think I ever let myself stop and really
take it in.
Yeah. Because from then I was rushing into getting work, and I wanted to start working, and I wanted to do this, that and the other, and I was just kind of flitting around and
sort of like you were
so much.
avoiding something there.
Ooh, yeah. I was 100% avoiding the fact that I was like...
What were you avoiding?
I think I was just like devastated that this thing that I always thought I was going to be doing has just been taken away from me. Also, my body was not working the way a 28-year-old's body was working. Like, my knees were shot, back was shot, my shoulders were shot. You know, I had like so many surgeries, and it's like, I don't have the body of a 28-year-old. Like, my body's like decrepit. I don't have a career anymore. I have no identity, no idea who I was, because I went from this sheltered little 17-year-old into growing up in the military and having that be my whole identity, to then having to figure out what my identity was. And I was like, all right, well, I've always wanted to get tattoos, and I've always really enjoyed like having my hair dyed multiple colors, and I've always like had, you know, piercings, and I've always been a bit alternative and a bit weird. And so I like really heavily lent into that. And I was really lucky that through that process, like, I met a lot of amazing civilians, people in creative fields. So makeup artists, hairdressers, artists, tattoo artists, like all of these people who had really eclectic experiences. And they really helped me kind of get out of this like insular way I thought about myself, because I never thought I was a creative person. But actually I am. I have got a really creative side of me, and I really thrive in a creative environment.
When did you realize that?
I think it was probably like maybe 6 months after leaving. My beautiful friend Jules, who does my hair, I started modelling for her, doing hair modelling for her. And my transition was, I remember walking in and I'm like, this is it. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I can have coloured hair. And she's like, no. So we just went all out.
Yeah.
You know, I ended up with rainbows, and, you know, her first dip into having like lateral rainbows like in someone's hair was on my head. And she started experimenting more with vivid colours, and a lot of that, you know, I had the privilege to be a part of. And I think that I really lent into that, and I was just like, yeah, this is who I am. I'm that like rainbow, like unicorn chick that you know, has crazy hair and stuff, and really alternative. And I'm in you know, I started working in social media, and I started working with my artist friends and other brands and stuff like that, doing a little bit of like copywriting and PR and event stuff, and really like in this really eclectic freelancing space where I kind of just picked and chose my clients and how I worked with them and what they needed. And then like COVID hit.
Yeah.
You know, that for everyone, that kind of shook up the world. And I feel like that to me was my point of transitioning back into reconnecting with the veteran side of myself. So for that big portion of me, finding who I am in a creative space was denying myself a part of me. So denying that I was in the military. I didn't call myself a veteran. I didn't think of myself as a veteran. So I really denied a huge portion of who I was and my story. So at the end of 2021, I started working with a ESO, a big ESO. I won't name them. And I started working with veterans. So I started facilitating social connection activities with veterans and creating these connection activities in an online environment so that, you know, everyone could attend in their safe space, and they had this option to kind of opt in and out of the Zoom still connect, but they didn't have to be there in person or have, anyone who had any limiting factors to them getting to like an in-person social connection. This was to bridge the gap. And it was in working with those people, and there's one person in particular that stands out to me that I've reconnected with since leaving that ESO, that really made me understand transition and my own transition and where I was at with my transition.
It's interesting when you say that, because you think when you're going through that transition period that you're by yourself, no one else is going through what you're going through. And then it took me ages to reconnect to the veteran community. I would say 3 years.
Yep.
And listening to other people's story is sort of what grounded me a little bit.
Yeah.
And by listening to their story, it's like, oh wow, like they've been through the walls and back, and in their own sort of obviously situation, circumstances, but like I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
just like that. I don't know, like you switch it on and you flick the switch, sorry.
Yeah.
And you instantly don't feel alone anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is one of those moments where I was like, this is my aha moment.
Yeah.
Where I'm listening to other people's story and just being able to sit back, and the honor that I felt when I could be a part of these people's journeys into finding their own confidence and watching their confidence build over the weeks that we would be working, with them. And it just made me feel so proud of where I'd come from, proud of that veteran part of me again. And, I went on to then work for another ESO and working in that space of like transition. And that, once again, it just made me reflect on my transition even more and all the things that worked for me when I was transitioning, and those big things of like having the community around you, not just defence and veterans, but also civilians around you to help you integrate back into the big bad world.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be where I'm at or be who I am without my civilian friends. The other part is like having something that doesn't tie you to the uniform anymore, like having hobbies and interests that don't tie to the uniform. So things like, for me, it was modelling. It's so
freeing.
It's so freeing. And I think for me, a lot of it as a victim survivor of sexual assault, as well as like, I started to be able to control the narrative around me again. I felt empowered in my own body, that like, this is my body. I'm proud of my body and everything that it has achieved and accomplished. And I felt like I had ownership of it again. And that for me was a huge breakthrough. And it's like, well, I don't have to be scared anymore. I don't have to be in a fear state anymore. I can, freely express myself in ways and really, I guess, grab onto that femininity that I was missing throughout my entire career, or that I was scared of. Because that's the truth. I was scared of my femininity and to be seen as feminine, because that was actually dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me. So then being able to be empowered to be feminine was amazing again.
And just being yourself and do whatever you want. That's really true to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Be who I want to be. Say what I want to say, and going through a little bit more of like, I guess that recovery portion is like at the end of 2024, I actually had quite a significant mental breakdown. I found myself suicidal again.
So what triggered that?
A few things. So I was in a not so healthy relationship, and I was also there was an incident at my workplace where someone had gained access to the facility, and they were, on drugs. They tried to get into the shower cubicle that I was in, and I walked out like fully dressed and stuff. I walked out fully dressed and ready to go, and was kind of like, who was knocking on the door, like who was trying to get in, and looked around, and there was this man standing butt naked in the toilets. And that was like one of those things that took me right back to like that fight or flight. I was like, oh my God. Like I felt so scared for my safety, so scared for my life. And this is like pre-opening hours for the facility. So there was only like 2 other people in the building, and they weren't anywhere near where I was. And, that kind of triggered that. Already having like a poor mental state, that trigger, I just was like, I just bottomed out. I was, self-harming again, suicidal, just didn't want to deal with it anymore. My relationship broke down, and was living in a backpackers for a period of time before I was able to actually get into a property, which you actually helped me get into, which I'm so grateful for. And kind of saved my life there. And it was from there that I got into a treatment program down in Byron and did 6 weeks in a residential treatment program.
Can you explain that treatment a little bit more? Like, is it veteran focused?
No, so this one is, it's called Byron Private. It's an amazing holistic facility, so it treats everyone, not just veterans. So it does substance abuse and trauma as well, PTSD. So they see things from more of a holistic. They treat from a more holistic standpoint. So it's gut health, it's mental health, it's spiritual health, and you're seeing psychologists multiple times a week, psychiatrists on site. You're doing yoga, and you're really encouraged to practice meditation, and you're encouraged to really like sit in that discomfort of your feelings, and work towards like what it is that is holding you back. And I think the big thing from that treatment that I took away was like my responsibility in all of these situations. What was my responsibility in all these situations? Because it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault that I was, sexually assaulted. But it is my responsibility now to ensure that doesn't happen again. How did that happen to me? It was for whatever reason, I didn't feel comfortable speaking up for myself. I didn't trust my gut in the first instance because I was always, gaslighting myself in these situations. Like this person's, this person's given me the creeps. I needed to get away from them, but I stayed in situations longer than I should have. But a lot of that is like, all right, where does that stem from? And it comes back to like schema therapy, which is going into, your core belief system and your childhood beliefs and stuff like that. And it was around, am I, I'm not worthy, I'm not loved.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, self-sabotage stuff, right?
I would say I was very, very good at that, self-sabotaging.
Yes, absolutely.
I think you do when you become like a victim of whatever the circumstances is like you actually start believing that you are these things, or you self-sabotage because you think you're not,
you deserve it.
Exactly. I can relate.
And it really is. I was really bad at setting boundaries for
what's boundaries?
What are they? So that was the one thing that all of the staff members at Byron were really supportive of me doing. So they wanted me to say no. They wanted me to set boundaries and be like, no, I can't do this because I need this for myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had quite a few little breakthroughs here and there. And I think I walked away from that place just like a completely different human being. I was more enlightened. I felt lighter. I did some EMDR as well while I was there that really broke through some mental blocks for me. And I decided at that point that I was going to pursue yoga and do my yoga teacher training.
A good one at that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wanted people to feel what I felt, and I wanted to be able to show others how great you can feel and how, you know, non-judgmental you can really like hold space for yourself non-judgmentally when you're in yoga and meditation. And it was the amazing yoga teacher that I had on that program that really pushed me into doing yoga teacher training, like really gave me that drive. So yeah, I've done that now and kind of came back from that training and was like, time to flip my entire world upside down, quit my job, move back to Brisbane, and started, you know, I guess redefining what this next chapter is, and it definitely is another transition process for me.
Yeah.
It's finding my voice, really, I guess accepting the narrative, but building it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, from knowing obviously who you are now, and where you're heading, like it's so exciting. And I'm actually so grateful that I get to see it and grow with you. It's, very, very exciting times. You know, everyone's experience in the military is different. Pre, during, post.
Absolutely.
It's so different circumstances, exposure. Yeah. But I think something's really powerful, understanding what went through your lens. Yeah. And it's very special for you to share that with us. Absolutely. After everything you've been through and all the highs and lows, all the in-betweens, what's one piece of wisdom you live by now?
Oh, I think it comes back to that, like, you don't have to have it all figured out. Done is better than perfect. You know, just give it a go. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out. And I think that jumping in the deep end sort of thing for me is like, it's almost become my second nature now. It's like, like, what's next? You know, what's the next big exciting adventure? And don't have to have it all figured out, because guess what? No one knows what they're doing.
Oh my God, who knows what Tash is doing next, right? What are you doing now? As much as we could go on for hours and hours. Absolutely. And go into very deep conversations, and we have occasionally about random things.
Yeah, or the philosophical questions that we bridge is incredible.
Bit of a rabbit hole there. I do want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing and being our first guest on True Blue Yarn podcast. And I'm excited for this to grow with you as well. I know that you want to be a part of it, and I'm very grateful for you to be a part of it. But yeah, we'll wrap it up with that.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me, Tash. It was great.
Thank you.